Hi guys, welcome back to your CPD for this year. Thank you for joining Real Focus and choosing us for your CPD training to keep you compliant. This year's training is called Winning Hearts and Minds in the Workplace, in the property industry. And what it's about managing conflict and dispute in our profession. Bringing out the best of yourself in any situation, really, when it comes to managing conflict. Now, before you go any further, if you're wanting to earn CPD points from this very same page that you found this video, I'd like you to go scroll down below and print out your assessment paper. Your assessment paper is there, along with your additional resource kit. And your additional resource kit, I'd like you to print out too. You can follow that as we go through the notes. You can be following and listening to the video, watching the video, and get the best out of this session. I'm going to be directing you to the answers, of course, in your assessment paper, and you need to write down those answers or type them in, whichever you want to do, and then send them to me at the end so that you can earn your 12 points. And that's a good thing, you know. It's a good thing to consider when you're working through this particular CPD training. I want you to be thinking of how you and everyone around you will benefit, because they will. You choosing to be here means that you get to enhance your communication skills so that you can better understand the difficult behaviors and solving the people puzzle really easily. This is where it begins. Here you gain an understanding and access to some amazing tips on how to better manage conflict in our business. You'll increase your understanding of people's personalities, their behaviors, and the hidden agenda within the archetypal blueprint of these personalities. So before we go there, what I'd like to do is I want to answer a few questions that you have in your assessment paper. Let's get a few of those knocked off before we proceed. You will have already listened to and watched the video. If you haven't done that, the Perfectionist video, Learning to Let Go, you can pause this video now. Go ahead, it only takes you 5 minutes. It's also on this same page where you found this video. Scroll down, you'll find one called The Perfectionist or Learning to Let Go, and watch that. It's only a few minutes, 5 minutes perhaps, and then come back and it will serve you well to do that. So remember to go ahead and do that. It's about Patrick's story, right? It's it's a story about a perfectionist, how he lives his life, and the things that go on in his head and around him as a result of his personality type. So, all right. So let's move on to the next slide, which gives us the answers to the first question in your assessment paper, and that question is: explain the difference between dispute and conflict according to John Burton. Now, don't write this whole thing down. Keep it bullet point fashion, guys. Keep it brief. So John Burton, who is he? He's a professor in the analysis of conflict at the Centre of Analysis at the University College of London, the UK, of course, and the George Mason's University in the USA. So according to John Burton, a dispute is short-term. It's a disagreement in the short term. And in fact, the issues that there are negotiable, as opposed to conflict, in contrast, is long-term with deeply rooted issues that are seemingly non-negotiable. Now, do I believe that? Not necessarily. Yeah, I believe there's always a resolution and a solution for all conflict if we choose to care. So I love Albert Einstein's quote there: in the middle of difficulty lies opportunity. And you will have your own opinion too. You will have your own opinion as to conflict and dispute, and that's totally okay. All I'm here to do today is to take you through some of the alternative ways that we can deal with conflict in our business. The next question 2 in your paper, is list below 3 opportunities. Yeah, 3 opportunities that can arise from conflict. You'll find those there on your screen on the right-hand side of the screen. Going to the negative side first, you know, the negative attributes of conflict is avoidance. People avoid you, they avoid situations. There's an immobility, not wanting to move forward. There is sometimes violence. There's certainly inertia, and people just want to maintain the status quo. On the other hand, on the flip side, on the positive side, opportunities arise from conflict. Opportunities arise from conflict because it fosters creativity. It creates a high level of thinking, it improves listening skills, and it certainly is a catalyst for change. So understanding how individuals choose to deal with it is key to the long-term growth and success of business. Question 3 in your assessment paper is get us below at least 3 causes only, just 3, of conflict according to Bell and Hart. Now, there are 8 on the screen, and let me go through some of these quickly for you now. Conflicting resources. There are sometimes perceived injustices because the distribution of resources within an organization is not balanced. Yeah, that can cause conflict. Conflicting styles. That means that we all have our own style. We have our own variety of reasons for doing things, and it doesn't necessarily almost, not never, is the same as other people's style. There are certainly some crossover, but our style is different. We are all individuals. Conflicting perceptions is, I'm going to be focusing on this a little bit later on also in more detail. It's how we see the world. It's our own map of the world. The conflicts that arise because people see the world through their own eyes, through their own filtration system, and I'll go more into detail shortly on that. Conflicting goals. When we have several goals set by our staff or our colleagues, our managers, and even our clients, they're not always compatible with the organizational goals because we all have our own agenda. We need to streamline that. Conflicting pressures. It's kind of similar to the conflicting goals, but the urgency is greater. Conflicting roles is the next one. We have our own set of roles in our jobs, right? And we're familiar with what we need to do. And conflict can occur when we have to perform the role outside of our normal role and that we're not comfortable with. Unpredictable policies is simply in our workplace, when policies and procedures are updated, they're not necessarily distributed correctly. Yeah, and so if they're not communicated correctly, there's some inconsistency, and that causes conflict. Personal values we'll also be targeting a bit later on. We all have our own filtration system happening all the time, and it's based on our own values and beliefs, and this is where we decide what is correct, what is incorrect, what is right, what is wrong, what is good, what is bad, in our own mind. So conflict of values can happen when we're asked to perform tasks that conflict with our own personal values and beliefs. So choose any 3 you like there and add them to your answer sheet. So what we're looking at here is your client, your colleague, your manager, your subordinate. They want you to enter their world, enter my world, so that you can begin to see with more clarity there are many causes of conflict. And you can see that now. There are many different methodologies in managing people's behavior too. So look at their values, their structure of, their environment right now, where they've come from, the history behind, where they've been, how they've lived, where they grew up. They're all core issues, and implementing these skills that you learn here gives you the ability to enter the other person's world, the world of your client, the world of your colleagues and others that are close to you. And it's good to know that together we can unpack the code to some of the most aggressive and conflicting personalities you'll ever meet. How to recognize and communicate directly to what's behind the behavior in the most effective manner. Winning hearts and minds, feeling great and seeing things differently. Now, using the Enneagram to resolve conflict. Guys, I'd love you to stay open. there are some things here that you may have heard before, you may not have heard it before. There are some things here that you perhaps don't agree with initially. What I ask you to do is to stay open, to seek with enthusiasm the adventure here. There's lots of adventure here, yeah, if you choose it. And I know that you have lots of other important things to do, but this is a way that you can change the way that you approach conflict, which is what this session is all about. And rather than just listen and then shut it down, stay open. And you'll be so glad you did once you've done that. Because conflict in relationships generally happens, it comes about when there's a lack of clarity of someone else's intention, why they might have said that or reacted in that way. We tend to instinctively want other people to be like us. This is not so. And when people behave in ways that don't make sense, or when they behave in a way that provokes us, that generates some negative energy or reaction within us, then naturally there's potential for problems and conflict. So you'll see that even though there are more than one type in this particular group we're talking about here, these 9 types that will avoid conflict, that doesn't mean that conflict is not happening within them. There are people that will avoid conflict and confrontation at almost all cost. That doesn't mean they've not had a bad reaction. So having more clarity on how conflict rises within each individual, we can avoid conflict, or at least diffuse it, or make sense of it. And when we do that, then life has got to be easier. Wouldn't you agree? The Enneagram is an assessment instrument. It teaches us just that. It allows us to better understand why you and other people have a particular attitude, and why other people's attitudes are so different in most cases to your own. What's driving the attitude of that particular type of individual will come. It will be predictable. Yeah, you'll be able to understand their personality type, and their responses to situations are not going to be the same as yours. Difficult personality types actually experience things differently, and so they will react to an experience from their own map of the world, from what drives them. Each personality type is seeking something different at a very fundamental level. And when that doesn't appear to be available to them, then that person is going to have some sort of negative reaction, whether it's outwardly shown or not. And the outcome of that is that the person is going to behave in a way that perhaps you don't like, because it's not the way that you would have behaved. So the Enneagram unravels this for you. So go right ahead, picture owning this. Instead of someone else's behavior making you feel bad, or you moving into a place of non-acceptance or judgment about that other person's behavior, you can now stand back and say, yeah, I get it. I can see why this person coming from that type of personality would feel like that about this situation. And what happens when you get this is there might have been conflict before, and now in its place, there's understanding, there's acceptance, and there's tolerance. And it's all revealed here in the ancient wisdom and magic of the Enneagram. So seek it with enthusiasm and adventure of learning new skills, because you know you'll feel great at the end, seeing things differently. So now I know you're wondering, what is this? What's this magical tool I'm referring to? Is it new? Well, actually, no, it's not. It's been around since before Christ. It's an ancient tool that we believe has been used by scholars such as Socrates, Aristotle, and Plato as far back as 300 BC. It was reintroduced into our Western world in the early 20th century by a teacher called Gurdjieff. It was he that unveiled it to us as a system. In 1970, a student of his, Oscar Ichazo, introduced a new way of working with it based on the idea that each point can be likened to an ego type, where ego is considered to be a barrier to our own transformation. And it's also focused on the 9 points as 9 dysfunctional ways of thinking, separating us from our true or essential self. So this philosophy was embraced and shared by a student of his, Claudio Naranjo, and his students, and from there the teachings have spread across the globe. And it's the Enneagram that we now enjoy and understand today. So we've all experienced the progress when it comes to technology change, right? Now it's time to catch up on how we can understand ourselves, better manage other people, and build fulfilling careers and relationships. Embrace this opportunity, guys, of growth for you and those whose lives you touch. Because our communication methods are adapted to our own preferred communication style. This is about looking at other people's style, stepping into their shoes, and seeing it through their eyes. So the 9 types, very quickly now, I'm going to explain it in more depth as we go through, but very quickly, the 9 types are perfectionist, starting at number 1. 2, the helper. 3, performer or achiever. 4, the creative. 5, the observer or the sage. 6, the questioner or skeptic. 7, the enthusiast or innocent adventurer. 8, the protector or the knight. And 9, the harmonizer or peacemaker. Now, as I go through and explain this chunk by chunk, you're going to find that we are typically sit comfortably in 1 to 3 types. This is not about stereotyping you into one type. We are more than one type. In fact, we are all types. Depending on the situation, depending on where we are, if we're at home, if we're at work, if it's regarding our finance, regarding our health, whatever it is, we come from different points on the Enneagram circle. And we take on the characteristics of that archetype. So just because when I refer to a particular type, that does not mean that that type does not understand the other types. You do, because you are that. The point here is that we can what we want to do is understand the behavior behind the type, the motivation behind the behavior of each type. So sometimes you might get angry. Sometimes you might feel just frustrated. Sometimes you think, well, I don't like angry. I don't get angry. Well, there are times that you do, yeah. At some point in your life, it's about when we are living and breathing in one type. These are the kind of characteristics. These are the kind of traits that we show. In addition to the 9 types, we work with what we call wings. So, for example, starting at number 1, if you are more of a perfectionist, we tend to lean towards a wing, a left or right wing. So, if you might be a perfectionist with a nurturer wing, which means you're more caring and giving to other people. Or you might be a perfectionist with a peacemaker wing. Yeah? And the peacemaker wing is like keeping things in total balance and in harmony. You might be an 8, and you might have a 7 wing. Yeah? And the 7 wing is the innocent adventurer. So you might be a knight with an innocent adventurer outlook. Or you might be a knight with a peacemaker outlook and follow those traits. So you can see that someone who's an innocent adventurer, they're the kind of people that want to jump out of airplanes, shoot the rapids, do bungee jumping, rock climbing. They're really into fun adventure stuff, as opposed to the peacemaker, just want to keep things nice and safe and at harmony and more calm. Whereas the 7 is more outgoing and pushing the limits. Yeah. So we each have wings. In addition to that, we have 3 different subtypes. We have our own self-preservation type. We have social types, and we have one-to-one types. And I'm going to unpack those for you shortly. So there are the different types. We also sit in zones. So 8, 9, and 1, I live in the anger zone. 2, 3, and 4 live in the image zone, and 5, 6, and 7 live in the fear zone. And again, this will all become more clear to you as we go through. So what I also want to do now is tell you very quickly about how you can crack the code, cracking the code for each type. So unpacking the 9 types, it explains why we behave the way we do, and it points to specific directions for individual growth. It's a really important tool, guys, for improving relationships with family, friends, and colleagues. So please listen up, take it on board, and really embrace it. Cracking the code of the perfectionist. The perfectionist, their basic desire is to have integrity and be balanced. Their key motivation is to be right, to improve the world, to be consistent in their ideals, and to be beyond criticism. Their basic fear is to be seen as being corrupt or defective or evil. They seek rightness. They must do things right. And you will have seen that when you've watched the video. The nurturer, on the other hand, their basic desire is to be loved and to be needed. Their motivation is to be loved by others, to express feelings for others, to be needed and appreciated, and to get others to respond. Their basic fear is being unwanted and unloved and feeling unworthy of love. They seek love, mostly. The 3, the achiever, is also known as the performer. Their basic desire is to be valuable, to be at their best. Yeah, always. Their motivation is to be affirmed, to distinguish themselves from others as being the best or better, to gain attention, and to be admired and to impress others. Their basic fear is to feel worthless. And of course, they seek status. The 4 is the basic desire is to be unique. See me as an individual, the individual that I am. I need to feel significant, and you can give me that. The key motivation is to express their originality, to create, to surround themselves with beauty, paintings. They're into paint, they're into sculpture, they're into dance, they're into all those creative arts. They want to maintain their moods and feelings, and they do that through the arts. They withdraw to protect their own self-image, and they take care of their emotional needs before anything else. And they're always looking for the rescuer, their soulmate, the true love of their life. That's very typical of the 4. Their basic fear is to possess no individual significance or identity. So if you take their identity away from them, their significance, they become almost useless. They must maintain that. That's part of who they are. They must maintain their originality. So we look now at the 5, the observer or the sage. Their basic desire is to be competent. Their key motivation is to possess knowledge. Knowledge is power. Understand the environment and to have everything figured out as a way of defending themselves against threats. And they will take their time. Give them the time, give them the space, give them material to research, and they'll be happy. What they fear most is to seem ineffective or incompetent or even ineptitude. So they seek knowledge. That's their key motivator. The questioner or the skeptic, their basic desire is to feel supported and secure. The key motivation is to feel safe, secure, and supported by other people, those close to them. To have reassurance, to test the attitudes of others towards them, and to fight against anxiety and insecurity. Their basic fear is insecurity and a lack of guidance. Again, they seek security. Moving on now to the 7, the innocent adventurer or the enthusiast. I'm just going to take a drink of water. Just give me a moment. And their basic desire is to be satisfied and content with no needs unfulfilled. Their key motivation is to maintain freedom and happiness, to avoid missing out on the great things in life, on worthwhile experiences, to keep excited, to keep occupied, keep the variety in their life, and avoid pain at all cost. They fear pain and deprivation, being deprived of what else is out there. They seek stimulation constantly. The knight or the protector, their basic desire is to be in control. They're always in survival mode, and they're looking out for protection of themselves and of others. Their key motivation is to be self-reliant and to prove their strength, resist weakness, and to be important and remembered, to dominate their environment. They seek power. Their basic fear is to seem vulnerable. They do not wish to seem vulnerable, being hurt or being controlled by others. So again, they seek power. The harmonizer, the peacemaker, their basic desire is to maintain an inner stability and peace of mind for themselves and for others. The key motivation is to create a harmonious environment, avoid conflict, preserve things just as they are, in harmony. Their basic fear is loss, separation, annihilation, and they're always seeking peace. So, what the Enneagram teaches us is that early in life, as a young child, we learn to feel safe and to cope with our family situations and personal circumstances by developing a strategy based on our own natural talents and abilities. So by working with the Enneagram, we can develop a deeper understanding of other people's behavior and our own. And we can learn alternatives to our own patterns of behavior. And that means we can break free from the worn-out coping strategies and begin to see life from a broader perspective. What you're seeing on the screen now is the hero's journey. It's an image of the hero's journey. And this I've taken and adapted from the original hero's journey from Joseph Campbell. This is my own interpretation of that. If you've ever watched a Disney program or a movie from Hollywood, all of them have a hero. They all have a hero's journey. They tell a story. And the story is about the different stages of our growth within the archetypes. We have 4 quadrants. We have a childhood, an adolescent, a young adult, and a mature adult. And I truly believe that the hero's journey fits in beautifully with the Enneagram. And I'm going to explain to you a little bit about that, not spend too much time here. So it starts out in the ordinary world with a call to adventure. We're discovering new dreams. We're dreaming about what could be. And what I'd like you to do to get the full understanding here is think about yourself. Think about a situation, and it could be when you're a young child growing up, or it could be when you're a young adult, or even now, whatever suits you. Maybe it was whenever you first left school. Maybe when you were getting your first job, or perhaps you've been in your job for some time and you want to move on to the next job, the next career. Perhaps it's in relationships. Maybe you found love, and you've just met this new person, and you're in a brand new relationship, and you're deciding whether or not to proceed, and so then you decide, well, yes, you know what, I am. Whatever it is for you, find in your own mind a scenario that you can relate to as I explain this to you. It will make much more sense to you if you do that. So we get the call to adventure. Let's say we're wanting to move into a new job. Maybe it was when you were moving into this job you currently have. You were coming from your past employment. So you got the call to adventure. Shall I make the move? Is this the right thing to do for me? That's the call to adventure. You're discovering, you're exploring. Then, partway down the track, you then you put the brakes on. It's like, oh, I'm not so sure I want to do this. There was a refusal to the call. Is this really where I want to go? And then you start questioning. Should I stay here, be comfortable with what I know? The devil you know, right? Or am I going to go to greener pastures? Are they greener pastures? That's the refusal of the call. And then when you get past that, you actually go and you want to speak to a mentor. Now that mentor could be somebody outside, someone you respect, and someone you know who's going to give you good advice. Or it could be you going within to your own mentor. You are your own mentor. You are your own hero. Whichever way it happens is totally okay. So you go to meet the mentor, and in discussion with the mentor, you decide, yes, I'm going to do this. I'm going to keep going forward. And so you cross the first threshold. Once you cross the first threshold and you're in your new job, and you might have thought, oh my goodness, what have I done? It's the dragon's lair. It's the belly of the whale. What have I done? Oh my. All these roadblocks come up. All these, the roads of the trials and tribulations, roadblocks, brand new things you need to learn. It might seem also very difficult right now, and you wonder what on earth you did. Now, some people can go back into the childhood stage, yeah, and some will just keep moving forward. This is the point of adolescence. This is the rebel stage for many people. And as you keep moving forward and you keep jumping the hoops, jumping over the boulders, going around them, digging underneath them, whatever you need to do, you keep going. And then we meet another temptation. This is like meeting the goddess, and if you think about in the early years, whenever, the ships were venturing out and they had sailors, and they used to come across, land, and they could hear the siren, they could hear the goddess calling them, come closer, come closer. And there's a little bit of, sometimes quite a lot of fear there. But you go toward the temptation. Now, when you do that, there's another threshold to cross. And this is in the special world. And this is the apostasis. And what this means is something needs to die in order for you to be reborn. A chapter needs to close. You're breaking from the old habits, the old patterns, and you're moving in and venturing into the new. Once you do that, then you find the ultimate boon. This is the Holy Grail. You've found it. Here I am, a young adult. This was also worth it, and there is no going back. There is a total refusal to return, because you have a whole new outlook. You have experienced it all, and you've come through it. You've made it, and you take magical flight. In taking magical flight, you're sharing with those people around you. This is the Holy Grail. This is it. I want to share this with the world, and I want to make it, the world a better place. You're crossing the next threshold, and then you become the master of two worlds, of the ordinary world and of the special world. And it's such a great feeling. You are free to live, free to share, to do whatever you want to do. You're bringing wisdom into the kingdom, and you're sharing that. That's the mature adult. And then you call to the next adventure. And we do this over and over and over in our life. And the Enneagram fits in with this hero's journey really quite well. Happy to talk to you anytime about this further. If you'd like to give me a call or shoot me an email. I'm going to keep moving forward now so that we can keep going with our work. So you can start to see now that there's so much here. There's so many things to discover, amazing opportunities to understand the underlying needs and concerns of the people at the different stages of life. And the roadblocks are those conflicts, those disputes that we have come up. And because of who we are and where we're at in our journey, we behave in particular ways. So one of the main things that we want to think about here are the values, people's values. I won't go into too much detail. This information is in your additional resource kit. Take it out and have a look at it and in your own time. But very quickly, the number one needs to be right. They're very ethical, high morals, principles, self-disciplined. The two needs to be appreciated. They like to be needed. They love friendship. They're into love and community. The three, the achiever, they want to be successful. They want to be popular. They want to have a great reputation. They want success and recognition of achievement. The four want to be original. Their values is to be original, to be creative. They love aesthetic beauty. They have a true self-expression, and they express that in the arts. They have a personal freedom. Number five is they need to be competent. Their values is to be competent. They seek knowledge and intelligence and originality, understanding and foresight. The six, their highest value is security. They're very loyal people. They're obedient. They're responsible. They take their duties very seriously. They're hardworking, and they do seek security. The number seven, the innocent adventurer, all they want to do is be happy in life. Be happy, experience all that I can experience. They love to accomplish. They love material possessions and being amused and excited. The eight seek to be strong. Strength and power are one of their highest values, and passion is also there. So passion, power, influence, wealth, independence, greatness, immortality, that's what they seek in life. It's one of their highest values in life. The number nine is to be at peace. They want to be at peace, at unity, at harmony, and they want to hold up traditional values, accept life for what it is. So now your values will cross over. You will have lots of values from different types, and that's of course natural because we have all types in us. But there will be some values that stand out most for you in 1 to 3 types. So bear that in mind. When we're looking at the different perspective, this is question 4, guys, in your paper. In question 4, I want you to write in your own words, give a brief description of what is meant by the different personal perspectives on values, beliefs, and conflict. So you can take some notes from the screen and listen to what I have to say, then come up with your own idea of what that means for you. People have different values and beliefs, and they differ in what they consider to be correct and incorrect. And these could be cultural or religious, personal values and beliefs. Values in particular, we did cover that a moment ago, but values in particular are so very important. And it's really very simple because knowing what's important to you actually flushes out your values at an unconscious level. When in conflict, you must elicit what's important for the client or the other party. Ask the question, what's important to you about X? And write down the answer in their words. Paraphrase. Use their language back at them. If you want to diffuse conflict, you must gain rapport. And one way to do that is to use their words, not your interpretation of their words, but use their words. Use your client's words, because their words are their values, and they understand their values. So use their words to accurately enter their map of the world. This image that we have on the screen, it represents innocence, yeah? Because from 0 to 7 of our life are the most important years of our life, because this is when we adapt and adopt the values of our parents and the people in our life, the schools, our friends, and we continue to adopt the rest of our life. So what happens is an external event happens, and as I said before, it's from 0 to 7. It's actually from 0 to 2 is the most crucial, but we'll say 0 to 7 because of that they are important years too. So what happens is things happen to us in life, yeah? And based on our values and our beliefs, we make it mean something. We are born to survive. We must survive. It's who we are. We're human. And we will do whatever it takes, whatever is necessary, based on our own natural abilities in order to survive. We have reference points in memory. We have language, experiences. There are defining moments in our life that stay with us for a lifetime. We base our decisions on all of the above. We have a conscious mind and we have an unconscious mind. We have internal representations. Some people are highly visual, some are auditory, and some are kinesthetic. And what does that mean? People who are visual like to see pictures. They like colour. They need to see things before they actually make a decision. And the people who are highly visual will actually use words like, "Oh yeah, I see. Oh, that's so clear. I'm saying thank you for that clarity." It's all about seeing, visualizing. The auditory person will say things like, "Oh, that really resonates. Yeah, I hear you." Yeah. Then we have the kinesthetic person. They feel. They trust their gut. It's a feeling they get inside. Yeah. And so they will say things like, "Oh yeah, I get it. Oh yeah, oh, that's fantastic. Oh, that's amazing. I really feel that. I really feel that energy from you." So if they're visual or auditory or kinesthetic, you need to use those words back at them. That's why it's important to make a note of the sort of words they use, because that's what they understand. That becomes an emotional state, and our unconscious, based on on our values and our filtration system, we become emotional in some way, shape, or form. And then that reflects in our body. We then project that out. That's our attitude. That's our behavior. It's what we do. So you'll also notice in the bottom of the screen here it says we delete, we distort, and we generalize all the time. What does that mean? Well, let's take the one, for example, the personality of the perfectionist. Can you imagine the personality of the perfectionist? They love to do things right. It must be right, the correct way, the right way, and they won't do it any other way apart from the right way. And in let's say in the home of the perfectionist, you can imagine their life is quite organized. Their children are organized. They have chores to do. There is a time to do homework, and that time is whenever you do the homework. Their schedule is very organized. Let's look then in comparison to someone who lives in number 4, the creative, or even number 7, the innocent adventurer. You might find, and not always the case, but you might find that the 4 or the 7, their homes may not be quite as disciplined, as organized. They're more inclined to, have things lying around, and they don't have a problem with mess as opposed to the one who might have a problem with mess. You walk into a home of a creative, and if they're an artist, you might find paintbrushes lying around and paintings lying around the place. You might find that animals are running around the place inside the home, whereas you may not find that in the home of someone who's a perfectionist. So can you imagine taking the perfectionist out of their home and placing them into the other home, and taking the creative or the innocent adventurer and placing them in the perfectionist home and having them live the lives of that other person? Can you imagine how difficult that is? Because we delete, so the number 4 and number 7 delete the fact that detail is so important, or they distort it as to say that it isn't as important as people make it out to be. Whereas from the one's perspective, detail is so very important, and we need to maintain that integrity. So you can start to see now what we mean by delete, distort, and generalize things all the time. So that's a little bit about different perspectives in life. And this is our image. This is who we are. You know, how do you know who you are? Nobody is exactly the same as you. Nobody. It's like our fingerprint. You know, our fingerprint, no one has the same fingerprint across the globe. It's the same for our unconscious mind. Nobody thinks exactly the same as we do. Yes, there is a lot of crossover, absolutely. But we are individuals based on our filtration system. Yeah, important to keep that in mind. That's our identity. So this is almost a wrap for the first video. What's perceived conflict? How do the different types perceive conflict and anger in their life? Well, the one will say, the perfectionist will say, well, anger, well, I don't really anger. I can be resentful, yes, but I don't really anger as such. The two will say something like, the nurturer will say, well, what, me? Cause conflict? I know, I'm all about helping people. The three will say things like, well, don't waste my time with this. And they're so focused on getting the job done, they don't have time, yeah? They just want to keep going and get the job done. The four will say something like, well, why did you do this to me? They can be what we call drama queens, drama kings, in that vicious circle of drama, and they can become the victim quite easily, and more on that a bit later on. The five is the observer or the sage, and they'll say, no problem, I'll just detach, I'll just run away and hide, I'll just go into my room, go into my computer, and I'll do some research, and I'll just, leave the room. The six will say, well, I didn't mean to cause any problems. I know I ask a lot of questions, but I didn't really mean to hurt, yeah? The seven will say, that's it, I'm out of here. They don't like pain, they don't like anger, they don't like conflict, they don't like confrontation. They're gone. Before you know it, they're out of here. The eight will say something like, well, anger, isn't that just energy? I use that as leverage. Anger is leverage. Anger is energy. I use it. And the nine will say, well, but I don't get angry. And they truly believe that they don't get angry. Perhaps they don't. Perhaps. So that's how they each perceive conflict and anger in their life. So well done, guys. This is the end of video 1. Please proceed now to video 2, or 2 of 3, and moving on to the next section. And I look forward to seeing you there. Thanks for your time.